You see that little adorable bearded dragon at the pet store? Nah, it's a trick. And that $150 starter kit that they want you to get, that's another trick. Buying into that fantasy is the fastest way to turn your cheap pet into a $2,000 medical nightmare. So many of the pet stores they would sell you these kits, but most of it is basically useless, filled with cheap items that don't work, and most of it is just dangerous for your bearded dragon. So if you want a bearded dragon, because you see them chilling on people, they are really chill pets. They love socializing, but now you need something. You need a setup, a tank, all the right items for not too expensive, but not outright cheap and harmful for your bearded dragon, alright? Okay, so let's start with the price of a bearded dragon. The most standard bearded dragon can be anywhere from $50 to $100, depending on the morph, the special colors or patterns. The price could shoot up to hundreds if because of based on the design or the color, or even thousands of dollars for rare bearded dragons. But for most of them, $70 is the normal baseline. I got mine for $50 off. All right. So now we need to talk about the starter kit. The pet stores they go into these boxes, they give you these kits. They tell you that this is the budget friendly with all the items that you need, everything to make your bearded dragon thriving, right? It looks like a great deal, right? You get a tank, you get some dry food, you get some dusting powder, you get the light. No, but do not buy that. These kits are dangerous. First of all, the tanks are small. A 20-gallon, it's okay for a little baby, but bearded dragons they grow fast. 2 years and they're already gigantic, big adults. Even a 40 gallon tanks used to be the standard like 7 years ago. But until now, but that's modern. That's not modern. That's not the modern care guide. Right now, you need a 120-gallon enclosure. It's 4 feet long, 2 feet wide, and 2 feet tall. So starting with a tiny bearded dragon tank, basically means that you're gonna have the bearded dragon tank. You bought the tank already, and now you need to upgrade it in the future, which is what I did. The biggest scam about this is the UVB light. The kits they come with these UVB lights that are horrible. They only stay in one spot. The mesh screen, which is the top of the bearded dragon enclosure that like opens it and closes this, those block about 30 to 50% of your UVB light. That is bad. That's really bad. So what I got was a T50. I even made a video about it, unpacking it. They're actually pretty expensive, $70. So you know, don't get the kit. First, we'll need to talk about getting the tank. So first, let's build the proper home. All right. So usually the we're not talking about I'm not talking about luxury items. I'm not talking about some custom pieces or whatever. I'm talking about a normal, good, healthy setup for your bearded dragon. That'll cost about $500 to $1,000 upfront because of the 102-gallon enclosure. It is about 350 to $500, and that's more than double the cost of a starter kit. Now, the most thing is the lighting. The lighting is about you need two different lights, okay? You need the UVB for heat, which is about 100 to 110. Those are pretty cheap, about $10 to $15. But it also needs to be but then you also need a 600 to $100 because it's a thermostat, so it can stay at a consistent temperature, overheating or fire hazards. Okay. For UVB, you need a T50 output. I got mine for about $80. It's $80 to $100, and this is non-negotiable. You need this. You actually need this. Now we need to talk about the substrate. You want to keep your bearded dragon? Maybe there's two options. There's loose, and there's loose, and then there's non-loose. So like rocks, uh, sand, not sand. I meant like soil, like different substrates. Okay, soil mix. They're about you can get garden soil for $10 or less. You can get about maybe for I got some like kind of like wood chips thing. It's a reptile soil. It's called repti soil. About $20. So it's not really expensive. Or you can go to the Home Depot and buy some rocks for maybe about $50. All right. If you want a bioactive setup, that's when you want a cleanup crew of insects like isopods. Those are fantastic. You can get more plants. You can get some insects. You can make the thing bioactive. It'll cost about $50 plus, $50 to $100. So but that's not that's optional. All right, for furniture, you need a basking platform, food and water dishes. Most importantly, you'll need digital thermostats with probes and a hydrometer to make sure the air temperature are like fantastic, which will be about $15 to $20. All right, let's add it up. All right, $400 to an enclosure, $90 for a UVB setup, $70 for a heat lamp and heat, another 50 for basic decor. You're already about $600, and you haven't even bought the dragon yet. All right, now let's talk about the monthly and yearly cost. The initial setup cost is the biggest single purchase, but the spending doesn't stop there. You will need to go for food, supplements, electricity. They can add up from $50 to $150 per month. And that food is the the most important part. Depending on the food, it can be about $30 to $80 a month, especially if it's baby. A baby needs more protein, more bugs, which will cost more money than a bigger bearded dragons, and it'll be about $80 a month. And then for vegetables, you can just get home groceries, carrots. You can there's quite a few options: collard greens, mustard greens. What about $30 to $40 for per month? Now you need calcium. You rub it. It's a white calcium powder. You rub it on the insect, and it'll give them calcium to prevent metabolic bone disease. It'll cost about $7 to $10, and you'll need to yeah about $7 to $10. All right, this and then now, just in case, God forbid, anything happens bad to your bearded dragon. But if something happens, you need a trip to the vet. Maybe something happened to your bearded dragon, an emergency occurs, an accident occurs. The stuff happens. We need to be able to prepare for this. So parasites could happen, impactation could happen, any of just in case. There's a lot to do to prevent it, but we have to be prepared. It can cost about $70 to $50, so keep some money aside for your bearded dragon in case something happens. All right, but the real consequences are from metabolic bone disease,